Ah, Frontierland. A step back in time to nature's wonderland of the old American West. Davy Crockett and Pocahontas, Big Thunder Mountain, and the rivers of America. But where exactly is Frontierland? Yes, I know it's at Disneyland and Walt Disney World and Disney parks all over the world. What I mean is, in-universe, in the context of the story, where in the American West are we supposed to be? I decided to do some investigating, and oh boy, this is a much harder question to answer than I originally thought. But it also became a far more interesting journey than I expected, and I think I may have finally cracked it. Before we get into it, just a disclaimer that I'm not taking into account any books, comics, or movies based on these attractions. I'm just going off of things that physically exist in the parks themselves. To get to the bottom of this, the first and most obvious question we have to answer is, which Frontierland? There are 5 Frontierlands, or Frontierland analogs, in Disney parks throughout the world. Are they all meant to be the same place, or different places? Is this Big Thunder Mountain the same as this Big Thunder Mountain? Or are there multiple, nearly identical Big Thunder Mountains throughout the world? Or is this a case of parallel universes? The biggest piece of evidence supporting that the different Frontierlands are not the same place is the fact that the towns surrounding Big Thunder all have canonically different names. Disneyland California is Rainbow Ridge, Walt Disney World in Florida is Tumbleweed, Disneyland Paris is Thunder Mesa, Hong Kong is Grizzly Gulch, and Tokyo is, well, Tumbleweed again. I guess those two are for sure the same place. The backstories are also ever so slightly different, although the broad strokes are the same. Generally, there's some kind of spirit in the mountain known to the natives that's angered by all the mining operations and causes a natural disaster of some sort, usually an earthquake, that shuts down the mine. Years later, the mine carts start zooming around the mountain on their own, possessed either by the ghosts of the miners who died or by the spirit of the mountain. In the US parks, the mining company is owned by Barnabas T. Bullion, this handsome fellow who looks suspiciously like Imagineer Tony Baxter. In Paris, the mining company is owned by Henry Ravenswood, and his story is tied much more strongly into the rest of Frontierland, particularly to Phantom Manor, their version of the Haunted Mansion. In Paris, the spirit of the mountain is specifically the Thunderbird, which is referenced throughout the land. In the US parks, it's left a little more vague, and it's ambiguous whether the mountain was actually cursed or if it was just a crazy accident. Now, this could be explained by one of two things. Either these are all parallel, unconnected universes, or they're different towns all existing in the same world. So I looked to see if there was any evidence of them existing alongside each other. In Disneyland, California, there's a signpost in the queue for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad with the names of the various towns: Grizzly Gulch, Thunder Mesa, Rainbow Ridge, and Tumbleweed. So that seems to be pretty definitive that the different Frontierlands do at least exist in the same universe, they're just different towns. But how far apart are these towns? The signpost gives distances, although they seem a bit unreliable. These are the distances to the real-world locations at the different Disney parks. Given that Thunder Mesa is very obviously in the western United States somewhere and not actually meant to be in France, I think we can chalk these distances up to a real-world reference for parkgoers rather than a key piece of in-universe lore. In the December 17, 2016 issue of the Thunder Mesa Daily Messenger, they again reference the other towns.
The Western River Line now offers frequent passenger and freight service by steamboat connecting Thunder Mesa, Rainbow Ridge, Tumbleweed, Stillwater Junction, and Grizzly Gulch, with all points on the rivers of the far west.
So there we go. All the Frontierlands are, it seems, fairly close, at least close enough to be easily connected by riverboat. And I understand that some rivers are absolutely massive, but it has to be pretty close overall, otherwise why are there no other major stops listed? It's only these little mining boom towns. If they were widely spread out across the country, you'd think there'd be some other major stops along the river in between them. And look, while it's technically possible that there just happens to be 4 very similar mountains in different places that were all named the same thing and whose mining operations suffered similar fates, I don't think it's terribly likely. The evidence seems to point to the much simpler explanation that these are all just different towns dotted around the same mountain along the same small river. Well, with the exception of Hong Kong. That's an interesting case because they don't have a Big Thunder Mountain to anchor it to the same location as the others. They have Big Grizzly Mountain. It's a similar ride, but the design of the mountain is noticeably different, as is the theming of the surrounding area. The advertisement in Thunder Mesa mentioning Grizzly Gulch does indicate that it must be at least close by, and Big Grizzly Mountain does have very similar red rocks, although they are lower and flatter, almost like it could be the foothills to Big Thunder. A smaller mining operation a little bit further down the river, but in the same geographical region. That sort of thing happened all the time during gold rushes. Someone would strike it big in one place, and then others would start looking in the area around it. So I think where we land here is the various Frontierlands are all different towns dotted around Big Thunder Mountain, with Grizzly Gulch being a neighboring town a little ways further down the river. But what about the different owners? Well, I see a few possibilities. Either Barnabas T. Bullion and Henry Ravenswood were rivals, partners, or successors. Maybe they both stumbled upon gold on different sides of Big Thunder at the same time. Either they were rivals in competition with each other, which fueled each other's greed and kept them digging deeper and faster despite warnings, or they decided to merge their companies so they'd collectively have a total monopoly on all mining operations surrounding Big Thunder Mountain. Or maybe Bullion took over after Henry's death. Henry's death is a key moment in the lore of Thunder Mesa that ties directly into Phantom Manor's storyline, and the company would have needed a successor. Any of the above are possible, and whichever one it is, I don't think the different owners are a problem. Now that we've established that, we can finally get to answering the question, where is it? The inclusion of Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Walt Disney World's Frontierland would seem to mean that it's obviously in or near Louisiana, since The Princess and the Frog takes place in New Orleans. But I think we can safely assume that the plot of that ride is not meant to tie directly into the wider lore of Frontierland, and it's just its own isolated experience set in the world of the movie. Plus, as you'll see going through the evidence, it's pretty much impossible for Frontierland to be anywhere near Louisiana. Some online reports claim that Grizzly Gulch is canonically in Northern California. That would make sense with the grizzly bear theming and backstory, but despite this being widely reported, I couldn't actually find that much supporting it in the land itself. The only evidence I could find is a reference to a performance by Madame Rubenstein, the San Francisco songbird, in the Grizzly Gulch Growler newspaper. But someone from San Francisco performing in your town doesn't necessarily mean you're near San Francisco. Even in the late 1800s, they had trains. Heck, that doesn't even mean she's actually from San Francisco. It could just be a stage name to make it sound like she's performed in big cities. There is some further credence to the idea that we might be somewhere in California, as in the Country Bear Jamboree, the titular bears sing a song entitled California Bears. But this could just be, well, a song. And just like with Madame Rubenstein, even if we assume the country bears are from California, that doesn't mean that you're currently in California. Like with Grizzly Gulch, many online reports confidently claim that Thunder Mesa is canonically in Arizona, but I also couldn't find anything to confirm that. Now, I don't live in Europe, so I'm having to rely on what I could find online and what few pictures I took when I visited Paris on my honeymoon, so it's entirely possible I missed something, but if it's supposed to canonically be in Arizona, the Imagineers didn't seem to do much to make that obvious. I can't find any reference to a real-world location anywhere in the land, and the Thunder Mesa Daily Messenger just says that it's printed in Thunder Mesa Frontierland. I also saw a lot of reporting that the tribe who canonically originally inhabited the region was the Shoshone. I really wanted this to be true because that would really help narrow down the region that we're looking at. But again, I couldn't actually find anything to back it up. No signs mentioning it, no Imagineer talking about it in an interview. People just seem to repeat it as fact without citing any source. The teepees that you see outside of Frontierland are consistent with the type the Shoshone people would have used, but they're also consistent with a whole bunch of other tribes. Again, it's entirely possible I'm missing something because I'm not currently able to investigate Disneyland Paris in person and have to rely on what I can find online, but I just couldn't find anything concrete to support this lore. Next, I looked to the animals you can find in Big Thunder Mountain. There are a lot of animals featured on this ride in the various parks, so I figured if certain animals can only be found in certain regions, that would help me narrow it down. Bats, coyotes, opossums, rattlesnakes, wild pigs, and vultures can be found throughout the US, so no help there. Desert bighorn sheep are prominently in Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, and Utah. So now we can finally narrow it down to 7 states. Mountain goats, meanwhile, can be found prominently in Alaska, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. So going by places where you can find both desert bighorn sheep and mountain goats, we can narrow it down to 2 states, Nevada and Utah. And hey, desert tortoises are also found in Nevada and Utah, as are roadrunners. Next, I looked at the dinosaur fossil found in Dinosaur Gap at Big Thunder. It's not confirmed specifically what kind of dinosaur fossil it is, but is widely believed to be either a T-Rex or a relative of the T-Rex. Both states in question have technically had Tyrannosaur fossils found there, but Nevada has only had fragments of relatives of the T-Rex, while Utah has been the site of many T-Rex discoveries, including a nearly complete skeleton in 2017. That definitely puts Utah to the top of the contender list, but unfortunately, the few fossils that have been found means we can't rule out Nevada entirely. The proximity to California might lead you to think that Nevada would make more sense given Grizzly Gulch's whole thing, but both Nevada and Utah were home to grizzly bears until the 20s and 30s. It was at this point I felt well and truly stuck. How can you positively narrow it down between 2 neighboring states who both have relatively similar features? Both have red rocks, both have rivers, both have deserts, both have geysers, both have a history of gold mining. Utah has more dinosaurs, Nevada has more gold. I decided the only way to narrow it down from here would be to search across both states to see if I could find a spot that fit the criteria best. I was looking for large red rock formations next to a river deep enough for steamboats that leads to a more wooded area where Grizzly Gulch could be. Bonus points if the area has been historically home to gold mines. I searched all over both of the states, and while I found a lot of places that almost fit, everything was just slightly off. I got very excited when I stumbled upon this interview with Imagineer Tony Baxter discussing the design of Big Thunder.
We weren't allowed to go on trips those days, like a certain guy that did the Animal Kingdom that went on there. So they said, we've got a great idea for you. We have a great library of National Geographics up in the library. Why don't you just go down there and get out all the national park books? So I did, and I opened the one on Bryce Canyon. And the first line in that article was, when you reach the rim of the canyon at Bryce, you'll be looking at something that was crafted, you would think, by Walt Disney. So that became the basis of the Disneyland version.
Bryce Canyon certainly looks the part. You can tell what a tremendous influence it had on the design of Big Thunder and the surrounding area of Frontierland. Unfortunately, there are just no rivers in Bryce Canyon that are consistently deep enough for the Mark Twain riverboat to be a reliable means of transportation. So while we can definitively say it helped inspire Frontierland, it unfortunately can't be Frontierland. However, if you go just a little bit east of Bryce Canyon, you'll find Glen Canyon. Up the Colorado River from the Grand Canyon, Glen Canyon is about as close to a perfect fit as I could hope for. A big section of the Colorado River winds and twists through it, perfect water for a riverboat. Beautiful red rock formations decorate the horizon. You could plop Big Thunder Mountain anywhere along the river here and it would look just like it belongs. There are small wooded regions in a few places along and near the river, perfect for Grizzly Gulch. There's even a rock formation known as the Rainbow Bridge. Maybe in another reality, a town was set up around here called Rainbow Ridge. I don't know, I just thought that was a fun coincidence. In the 1880s, the area was primarily inhabited by the Southern Paiute tribe, with a large Navajo presence as well. Heading a little ways west into Cedar City, today you'll find Southern Utah University. Their mascot, in honor of the local Southern Paiute people who originally inhabited the land, is a thunderbird. To top it all off, the area has a storied history of gold mining. In 1883, a man named Cass Height discovered deposits of placer gold along the Colorado River in Glen Canyon, igniting something of a minor gold rush in the area, with a couple of mining companies setting up shop in the following years. By the 1890s, hundreds of hopeful miners were panning for gold in Glen Canyon. In the early 1900s, a man named Charles Harvey Spencer set up a mining colony in Glen Canyon and even used a steamboat to maneuver around the area. Now, nobody ever really struck it rich in Glen Canyon. Gold was fairly plentiful in the region, but it was mostly small, microscopic gold dust rather than big ol' nuggets. But that's just in this reality. Perhaps the key difference between our world and the world in which Frontierland exists is just that, in that world, Glen Canyon was home to Big Thunder Mountain, and large deposits made a few lucky men very rich, until their greed and unwillingness to heed the spiritual warnings of the Southern Paiute people led to their downfall. So there we go, we found Frontierland in Glen Canyon, Utah. What do you think? Do you agree with my conclusion? Did I miss something? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, subscribe, click the bell, all that fun stuff so you can stay notified of everything I post. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the parks.